Before that, a report from Mark Urban, which on the face of it may have been conceived after a light lunch with Oliver Reed and Keith Floyd. It somehow links espionage, the New York Times, China, and something unspeakable happening to fish.
Spear phishing, in which hackers send emails to groups of people which appear to come from a trusted source, but are designed to help hackers obtain secret information.
Spear phishing may be a harmless aquatic pastime for some, but it's also one of the most common types of cyber attack. An email, often apparently from a colleague or friend, links the victim to a web address where information is taken from them or spyware downloaded onto their computer.
It's actually incredibly difficult to pinpoint the source of a cyber attack. With targeted attacks against corporate organizations, it can be somewhat easier, but when you're looking at cyber attacks from nation states, they're very good at covering their trail.
Now the New York Times is saying that its people in China were targeted by cyber attack, and they believe that officials, angry at recent stories about corruption, may have been behind it. The Foreign Ministry in Beijing denies that.
It is unprofessional and irresponsible to decide about the origins of hacking attacks based on some preliminary materials. It is just ridiculous to even link the attacks to the Chinese government and military.
China has been accused many times, but often on circumstantial evidence. In 2009, Coca-Cola came under a cyber attack that targeted information relating to a planned takeover of a Chinese drinks company. It was spyware, all right, but was this state or commercial espionage? In 2011, a virus nicknamed Shady Rat was discovered in hundreds of computers belonging to the UN, International Olympic Committee, and other organizations. Antivirus specialist McAfee blamed it on China because the targets were deemed to be of interest to them. As for the latest alleged attacks on the New York Times, they started each day at 8 a.m. Beijing time, even though they were routed via American internet addresses in different time zones.
This flags up the exact problem, which is that you try and find lots of little pieces of evidence to try and make a big picture. On their own, none of these pieces of evidence would pass any sort of legal test, and what people try and do is put them all together to make a sort of a probabilistic case that this particular action was initiated by a particular group or individual. And unfortunately, that just doesn't stack up, because if you put enough half-truths together, they don't make a whole truth.
Cyber attacks have been part of espionage for many years now. These pictures of a nuclear reactor under construction in Syria appear to have come from an engineer's progress report. Intelligence specialists suggest it was intercepted by Israel. But what about cyber weapons, things capable of harming people and infrastructure? The spectre of cyber weapons, computer attacks that could shut down power stations or open the sluice gates on a dam to cause massive floods, is something that now haunts Western governments. But how real is the possibility of such an attack? One thing is clear, evidence that people have tried to do that is much, much rarer than the espionage type of cyber attack. The Stuxnet virus was used to disable Iran's nuclear enrichment program. Authoritative briefings suggested the US did it. And the US is moving to protect its own critical infrastructure amid claims it's wide open to a cyber 9/11.
What happens when the electric grid goes down? We saw that during Sandy, and you see how that impacts everything from the ability to heat homes, to the ability to pump gasoline, to the ability to have lighting at night, everything. So when we look at the nation's critical infrastructure and where it is vulnerable, one of the vulnerabilities is through the cyber and the networked cyber world that we live in.
Cyber defense has become a multi-billion-dollar priority in the US and elsewhere. But the emphasis it's now being given may say much about the power that Western countries already feel they have to damage the infrastructure of their enemies.
Mark Urban there. And now some questions for you.